Paul WANG from Icon ONG. I also forgot to say that Ricardo is at EPFL, based at Campus Biotech. We get a lot of people from Geneva here. It's nice because Open Geneva is still very early stage. We don't have much money to fly people over, and it's also a question of sustainability. Shall we fly people business class all over the world? We have like great people here around, and we should enjoy. Paul, it seems that 40 years ago, some people invented the internet, and they forgot to take the lessons of Ricardo in a way. They just went with some protocols, they forgot to implement security, and now we are in a big mess. I'm sure you have a stance on it. You want to say something about that?
Sure, I will, definitely. I mean, just to follow up on what Ricardo was saying, that we should all work together in order to make a better and safer world, and work together between like public sector and private sector. And that reminds me of probably just before starting my presentation itself. Last week with Fabio, we were discussing about emerging technologies that Ricardo was talking about. I mean, blockchain was one for SDG and how we work together. And with no further ado, I'm going to talk about the cyber victim of the future. So I'm going to count actually a story. The story was not designed by me, it was designed by David Ferrar, who's actually in the public audience. So now we're in 2019, once upon a time in 2019. So Romeo is being quoted on the web by Juliet. Where's Juliet? She's somewhere in the room, I guess so. So Romeo feels pretty flattered because it takes some time and he keeps on receiving some emails from Juliet. At some point in time, Juliet starts to be very insistent, more and more insistent. So Romeo, he feels angry, he feels scared, he feels that something bad will happen to him. So what he decides to do was he decides to kindly ask Juliet to stop sending those emails. Was it a good idea? Probably not. Juliet gets very annoyed. So Juliet sends him an ultimate message, warning him that if he's not following her, then she will steal his life. So imagine, in a glimpse of a second, what happens? Juliet steals Romeo's life. So Romeo is no longer able to access any of his bank accounts. Romeo is not able to recover any of those accounts, and on top of it, the worst thing happens. Romeo's status on social media turns out from single to married. What a drama. So, and on top of it as well, he's pretty scared that some of his selfie pictures may be stolen by Juliet for misusage. So if that happens, Romeo is pretty in a bad shape. So what happens? So he decides to file a complaint. So he goes to the police station, surprise, surprise. At the police station, what the policeman tells him? Well, today in Switzerland, identity theft cannot be prosecuted. And that each time something bad happens to him, that each time his supposedly Juliet is stealing or making use of his name, then he needs to file a complaint. So on top of that, obviously it takes time. So the police warns him that everything takes time. The legal proceeding takes time. From the introduction of the case, instruction, analysis, etc., everything takes time. And on top of it as well, probably the prosecutor may not understand the case. So he may need to ask probably some forensic experts to study more, to examine the case, to examine the evidence, and everything takes time and costs money. So probably disappeared the evidence, disappointed, Romeo decides to just live his life continuously in a sad way, but also with the sword of Damocles under his head in order to make sure that nothing bad will happen to him anymore. So that's actually 2019. What are the results? So in a glimpse of a second, one click, it only takes 1 second. But the judicial and legal proceeding takes 8 months. So that's a long process. That's 2019. So now fast forward. Put yourself in 2046. Why 2046? Imagine at that time, 2046, we are living in a world with a rigorous and steady update of the data privacy law, data protection law. Why 2046? Because it took already 27 years before the last version of the data privacy law, and now 2019. So 2046, hopefully the next update will be shorter, and we'll still be here living the next update. So, two hypotheses. First of all, the justice. If justice does not change its procedure and to adapt to the web time, there will be more and more victims, and the victims will lose the trust on the entire system, on the authorities. So they will trust neither the authorities nor the entire system, and they will not file a complaint because it takes a lot of time. Second hypothesis, if, on the other hand, in a very ideal world, we're turning the Justice 2.0 or even Justice 3.0, and that even accelerating the evidence collection, that people will be able to cooperate, there will be an automatic exchange of assistance between the countries, then probably at that time the procedures are existing and are already implemented, and perhaps the victim will seek justice to help, and more often, and probably cybercrime will start to fall immediately, hopefully. Do you think that'd be possible? Or that's utopic? Maybe that's a future reality we need to live in. So, well, it's not, because think about right now what ICANN is doing. ICANN accelerated procedures for recovering domain names. It only takes 60 days and 1,500 Swiss francs to recover from 1 to 5 domain names. And that can be accomplished. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is up to us to put the victim in the center of the procedures, to put the center of our priorities. It is up to us to readapt the entire legal and judicial system, so to adapt to the new ecosystem, to the new ways of life. In order to perform these changes and to review the deadlines, we need to entrust probably an international organization that will be able to collect, to collate, to work all together in a competence and mutual aid and resilience. All that will be achieved then with an agreed consensus. So at that time, hopefully, Romeo's son, Henry, will feel safe in a new cyberspace. Thank you very much.
On time. Perfect. Thank you so much. I don't have a very easy transition to invite Fabio on the stage, but maybe you will have one. Well, with Paul and blockchain, not sure. Maybe you want to make it transition by yourself. But thank you, Paul.
I have a question, Paul. How did you make the slide move automatically?
Artificial intelligence.
Yeah?
It works.
It works. So that was the transition. And also to say that as a transition, I'm not a geek nor a developer. And when Thomas asked me to talk about blockchain, I said, okay, but